Starting us off with the game that's played on Friday, we actually finally have a good Friday game. Oregon State is playing Utah. Oregon State comes off of a loss against Washington State, which was one of the most impressive performances from Washington State. They proved to me I think they belong in that 10-11 discussion as one of the top teams in the country because they're so well-rounded. Oregon State, they looked good at the start of the year, lost a little bit of their footing. On the other hand, Utah's surviving without Cam Rising. The quarterback situation's not great, and they played a really ugly game against UCLA. They still pulled out with the victory because of how freaking good their defense is. Sean, for me, the biggest thing that I am focused on in this game is one, how does DJU play? He doesn't need to go all out and have an amazing game because he's going up against Nate Johnson, who has been fine, has been an explosive athlete, but has not been the best passer. But DJU needs to have a much cleaner performance than the one that he had against Washington State. At the same time, Oregon's got to keep doing what they're doing defensively because they are getting after quarterbacks. They are forcing turnovers. Cole Bishop is a rocket coming down the field as that hybrid safety linebacker box player that he is. There are just so many well-coached defenders on that Utah defense. And if they keep doing what they're doing, this could be a long day for the Beavs.
Yeah, this seems like it's going to be the first real deal true test of a defense. No slight to Wazoo, but the Utah defense is legit. That is what has carried Utah to their record. It has not been the quarterbacking. It has not been the offense. It has been the, head hunting cannibals on defense is the only way I can describe them. A defense that's out for blood. And that's a fun defense to watch. So Oregon State, buckle up because you're nice and flashy. You got talent. You got some good animosity towards the rest of the Pac-12. I can't get enough of Oregon State this year. I can't get enough of Washington State this year. I wish they played each other at the end of the year so I could still have that waiting for me. But now it's just the revenge tour. Now we just get to see Oregon State go out and just looking for blood, which they could find. But Utah is seemingly that dude at the bar. That's what they seem like. The one dude, you shake his hand and you wonder why his hand feels like it's filled with lead. That is who Utah is. You're like, damn, what? I know me. I lift some weights. Why do I feel like I have a child's hand right now? I don't like this. That's how Utah makes you feel.
So Utah, I don't mean to cut you off. I really like that analogy. Utah is like the guy at the bar when a fight breaks out. He's not the one who starts it, but he's the one who finishes it. Like he just comes out of nowhere, ends the fight, and does it as stoically as possible. That's what they feel like.
The problem is with Florida, they started the fight and they crushed them early in the season. I like it though. Utah is just a scary dude in the bar. So Oregon State, maybe try to talk your way out of it with some nice flashy offense. So you just got to stay disciplined. I like a lot of what they're doing. It's not going to be you really need to hammer down on this game. It's just going to be play a fundamentals game, win both sides of the ball, convert on third down, get some yards every first down, and then just keep on chopping wood. Keep on chopping wood because if you can score points, it's going to be hard for Utah to score points. It is hard for them. They're struggling with that without Cam Rising, and Utah is underdogs in this game, which I might bring up a little bit later in another segment. But this will be a fun, tasty line. It's a fun game, a little Pac-12 action, best conference in the nation right now.
I was a little iffy on placing that. Actually, I might have actually placed that bet. I'm going to double check. I do like that bet though. I do like the Utah plus 3.5. Actually, I might have done the opposite of you. I'm going to check that in a second before I keep
this is where, here's the thing. We can't both be thinking the same thing, or else it's all going to go to hell.
Look, you bring up, no, I didn't end up betting on that because I was afraid to touch that because of how evenly matched these two teams are. But I do really like Utah. It's weird that we're favoring Oregon State because of the slow quarterback play. But the thing that we've seen on a week-to-week basis, Sean, is that Utah, despite different guys, Bryson Barnes, Nate Johnson stepping in. Nate Johnson had that one final drive against Baylor where he kind of closed the game out and took over running the football. But they still haven't really figured out the offensive rhythm here because it's like, do you go to Bryson Barnes, who's the better passer, or do you go to Nate Johnson, who's just so hard to keep up with as an athlete? I think that even though they've been going through all this, without Cam Rising, they still have been so stout defensively. They have won because of their defense. Usually, a lot of times in modern college football, it's because you win because of good quarterback play. And instead, it's we're going to play gap sound, fundamental sound, attacking defense on every single play. I don't know what the situation is with Cam Rising, though, because there was that possibility that he might play against UCLA, and then he didn't. He's been warming up. I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I'm going to go off of the assumption that he is not going to play in this game. If Cam Rising plays, it's a lock for me. But I'm going to go off of the assumption that he doesn't, and I'm going to trust Utah's defense to come out here, cause problems for DJU. Oregon State does not really have the receivers that we would hope. They don't have the explosiveness that we would want to see that was supposed to save DJU from himself.
Yeah, for the Rising situation, I'm just putting my faith in Kyle Whittingham. He's been there before. He's been around the block. He's one of those dudes where whatever you're doing, I'm going to trust it. I'm going to trust you know what you're doing. You've been at one program for so long. You've been effective for so long. If Cam Rising can't play this week or you think he needs another week, I believe you. I believe that he is not making the wrong decision when it comes to stuff like that. In-game stuff, okay, we can beef about little things. But with just pregame execution, he is not a coach that I really defer or what is the word? That I feel does the wrong thing. Disagree with. There we go.
Okay.
Disagree. That's the word.
Okay. I was so perplexed by what word you were going for.
It was only one word, and that's all it could have been. And I didn't have a synonym for disagree.
I'm proud of you that your brain cells just decided to start working.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I think, though, just a final thought here. I'm sticking with Utah. I think that Oregon State's a fun team. I think they're probably going to finish with like 4 losses, but for them to beat one of the top teams in the conference, I just don't think they're there yet. Otherwise, they would have beaten Washington State last week.
Oh, Washington State's a horse of a different color, though. They are just they're just too much fun. Cam Ward's he's playing out of his mind right now. I almost don't even count that as an Oregon State loss because of how out of this world Cam Ward has been. There's got to be a come down. There has to be.
Well,
and there might be.
I don't think there's going to be. And I will go as far as to say this. I think that Washington State is better than Utah right now. I think that even if Cam Rising comes back, I think that Washington State is better than Utah. And I don't think a lot of people are willing to admit that, but I'm going to admit that. I believe that there's truth to that. But it still does not mean that there is a likelihood that Oregon State wins this game. I think that there was some legitimate exposure to the weaknesses that are on this Oregon State roster, which are their lack of explosive receivers. It's kind of ironic that this is where we are, that DJU escapes Clemson. Everyone starts getting all excited about him, but then we see against Washington State, he's got nobody. You know, he's got a fine group of guys. Maybe it's a little better than what the Clemson situation used to be, but if the guy doesn't have someone explosive to get the football to like he did his freshman year when he played those few games, he's kind of a sitting duck.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, looking at it again, checking back in on it. Not a truly inspired performance out of DJU last week. 198, a touchdown, a pick. Looking at the receiving, not the
DJU that we knew from.
This is a DJU stat line. It is, and they were 3 points away from winning the game and holding on, or 6 points rather. But gosh, you look at him in the pocket, you're like how is he not torching people? Because he just has that look of a quarterback, especially in college, that is going to carve up a defense. That's going to manipulate a linebacker that could get free. He's big, he's strong, good arm. Everything. The legs look right. Everything looks right. And maybe eventually it does get right. But right now, I'm still taking Oregon getting all up in his kitchen.